this started. One sec. Let's see, is the stream working? There we go. How's it going? I've been slacking on getting to the chapter review, so I figured I would just do a stream. I've got a little bit of free time, so I figured I would just do it now, get it out there, and kind of get talking about what's going on. Let me get some background music. The thing is, like, the chapter, I didn't have a ton to say about it. I think enough to do like a video, so I figured I would do instead just like a stream so I could talk to people about it, because it was pretty much like a setup chapter that just kind of like sets up a couple mini parts and then skips over the need for a lot more setup, and then just gets us like, okay, we're at the doorstep of some of the bigger events, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but at the same time, it's like there was the thing to talk about it this week was more about some of the funny interactions, and then the fact that now we're, well, I guess Rogue at least is up at Gold Owl. Maybe Gray is gonna get a scene. That's at least something. Maybe my mic is low. Let me adjust it. Well, it's because I got my gain on the bottom and I adjust it without noticing it. Because when I'm doing other stuff, obviously my mic doesn't have to be as loud. And then let me get my cares in music. One sec. How are you guys doing today? How's everybody? Has anyone got any hype they want to bring into the conversation? Whoever Sting and Rogue fights, because like I figured that we would actually spend more time getting there. Like we were going to maybe go to like 2 more towns, and we were gonna fight a couple more enemies with like some gold almers. My dog really just wants to get my cat's attention. Stop. Hey, you're fine. Quit. She doesn't want to play with you. You're just gonna piss her off. But we would go through a couple other this dog, a couple other towns, and it would be like maybe some members of Gold Owl and some other like members of like Alchemist guilds, and we would get some other capable ones. But we're getting right to Gold Owl itself, which is fine. But I'm hoping that we actually get some people soon that are going to be more of value to, some like skirmish and enemies and stuff. Like I just don't want it to be to where we're not going to have any... Hang on, let me adjust my sound. There we go, that's better. Send link. Send link to what? Chapter came out days ago. Like, it's been almost a week. One Punch Man. Does anything really progress in One Punch Man? I know the last 3 chapters, at least from what I've seen, have just been like that whole One Punch Man style where it's getting into the fight, but it's because of just like the fact that like this dude's taking chapters to like flesh out 5 seconds. It just feels super slow when you read it week to week. That's at least what it seemed like what was happening. And One Punch Man does that a good amount. And that's one of the reasons I can't read One Punch Man chapter to chapter, because it ends up doing that, and then I end up like, oh, cool, a chapter, and then it's like I just go through 35 pages of no text, and the characters pretty much jump from like 3 locations, and it's like half of them are really cool angle pictures, but that's about it. me post this. Let me just kind of post the stream on Twitter, and we'll kind of just kind of chit chat and see what's going on. I was gonna put it up there. I do.
That's about it. That's all I require for those.
But yeah, the chapter though, it's like it was good in how it jumped to like Gold Owl stuff. I want to know like because Rogue is the only one there at the end. Is Rogue able to get there faster because obviously he's traveling through shadows, or is Rogue just able to sneak into the building faster because of that? Because like I want to know, it's like, oh, are they still at like the the other town that's gonna take them like another chapter or two to get there, but Rogue, because of shadow travel, he's able to pretty much just to be there. It's like I wonder what like the idea of that is. As long as he knows, like I would imagine if you could travel through shadows, it would be essentially like you'd be able to skip through mountains and stuff because you'd be able to go essentially underneath it as a shadow, kind of like in a shadow world where it's like layered exactly the same but in reverse or whatever the fuck. I guess more of just kind of like a dark realm or whatever. Obviously, I'm not an expert on it, and we don't have enough information to really say for what Rogue's doing. But you know what I mean. Regardless, maybe we're gonna get some more stuff with Gray and Rogue. That'd be a really cool team up. I wouldn't expect, but there's a video I really want to do that's coming up. I want to say I'm gonna get it out within the next 2 weeks, maybe the next chapter or so, because I wanna gather a bunch of information on it and actually piece together more towards like why it's valuable, of why I think this could be a Gray arc. Not like 100% on Gray, but Gray having his own personal subplot like during this. It doesn't have to do with like the other characters, but has more to do with like, oh, Gray just got looped into something and now he's got his own thing going on, and we need to see what exactly he's going to be doing next. Because I think that'll be a huge plus if we're able to get Gray actually getting a bonus like that. Because Natsu and Gray, as I've mentioned, they have, as of right now, almost like opposing development. Gray's has been like almost on his character and has had steps and like seeds put out for like upgrades and combat and stuff and powers and whatnot. And Natsu said the opposite. Well, Natsu has had stuff laid out with like seeds and bits for his character. He's had advancements and progressions with his powers and whatnot. So if we can get something for Gray, where Gray's actually getting, these, like I said, seedlings of power development actually get progressed, I think that'd be great. Lucius versus Aizen. And when can we expect you and Broku to stream? I want to wait a little bit because I have a feeling that Doom's gonna do something soon in the Innocent Zero fight. We want to talk about that, but I would say right now I would still probably go towards Aizen, because like Lucius. The question is like, does Lucius have a way to counter Kyoka Soigetsu? I wonder what he would really do against that. But at the same time, what is Aizen's plan against Lucius? Because Aizen doesn't age anymore. But like, because what does Lucius really have for like offensive abilities? He's got some hacks, but somebody like he can't just turn into dust. What does he really have? And I doubt the soul stuff would work on Aizen. Like touching him just turns him into a paladin and takes over soul. I don't think that would work on him. Just based off of like how powers should work in Black Clover, it would be a power level based thing, and we've never seen Lucius do it to somebody as powerful as Aizen, or even somebody on his level. It's been people all below him. And granted, he's really powerful in the verse, but it's like we're not seeing him go up against somebody who's like a known equal and just poking him and taking him over. Otherwise, he would have done that to Lucifer if he could do it to people equal or even above him. Natsu being calm and calculated the last two chapters. I wouldn't even say calm and calculated like at all. It's just these guys are so low level for Natsu. It's just like, think about it like when you play a game and there's just like, these creatures that are so nothing to you, you don't even really want to bother. So even when they chase you or like trying to attack you, just run past them or something. You don't have any reason to have conflict with them at all. Lost my train of thought. I had to snap at my dog. She's being bad. With the elder, she doesn't listen. She just wants to befriend all the cats, but she's terrible with cats, so it just goes horribly for her, and she just figured it out. But yeah, I don't think it's not to being calm and calculated. I think this is just so not a threat to him and so easy, at least up until like where he thought like Lucy was getting teased and then like messed with. Like it was just to him, yeah, these guys are fodder. Like he had to barely do anything. He got the information he wanted, and then like this chapter, he's just like, yeah, okay. I mean, because like even the last chapter, it's not even like he was cold and calculated, or like it's the chapter before last, because Iwa should have tried to hit him, and then Natsu sneezed. Wait, are you talking to me? Oh, you're talking to Ashizura. I don't know what's going on with Ashizura. He's always got something going on, and he's very vague on it. I have no idea, but it is how it is. Oh, did I actually turn the music off? Or is it just not looped? It might not be looped. I meant to have it looped on. I like to have it play in the background. What are some of your expectations in the Black Clover chapter and Lucius as a villain? I'm fully expecting that we have a 3 or 4 days prior, and we start seeing what the black, like, or I was gonna say the black. Well, I was gonna say the Black Clover characters, the Black Bulls, and people like Yuno and whatnot are doing. Right now, I think the thing Tabata needs to capitalize on. I don't think Tabata needs to do certain things all the time. I think he needs to do this. He needs to draw out the story without Asta as long as he possibly can. With only like, I think within the next year, we should just see glimpses of Asta. We should see Asta in a completely different location. It's teasing that it's like, oh, where did he go? What's he doing? Like, and then we see maybe one more time he's preparing for something, and then the next time we see him, it's not until like Asta's coming. Okay, he's on the way. Like the idea of Asta, like think about this: Asta showing up to the Spade Kingdom should be the training wheels, like baby tier league for what should be his final arc. Like he needs to have one of those moments, because like think about this. I'll give you an example. Deku showing up to fight Shigaraki, and granted the series isn't over, but like that, the way that it was set up and like was still good, and like that cool double spread of him off in the distance and like slingshotting him in to go attack Shigaraki, those were cool. But that's it. That's cool. Like think about that in comparison to like other scenes where it's like the main character shows up right when all hope seems about lost. That's the kind of moment that I want. I want something like Sage Mode Naruto, like Goku showing up to fight the Saiyans or Frieza. Like, you need something like that for Asta. Like, that needs to be his thing going into it. And obviously, Yuno should be as equally as important, but Asta is the main character, and we need something like that that really just kind of gives him a main character shine moment that isn't just him showing up and beating somebody. Like, it's the presence around it and the sheer pressure of the style of like how he arrives that does it. Not just he shows up and beats up whatever opponent is there and then that's the end of that part. Because that just builds like, oh cool, it's just like a stronger version versus like a way that has a taste of hype. I think Mishima has something planned for Gray in this arc. I hope so. There's stuff I'll talk about. I'll go more into depth. But the thing is, like, Gray should be from this continent. Gray's from the northern continent. Or at least close enough that I feel like he would be aware of, like, maybe degrees of events in there. But I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because, like, other continents have been a thing in the series. But Mishima is, like, never has gone much on them until we've gotten to them as being relevant. But Giltina's the northern continent, and we know that's where Gray was multiple times, like when he went to go and confront Deliora. So maybe because it's Maker Magic has been called like alchemy-like. Alchemy was Mishima's main character idea before Haru, and then it's like, how could Gray tie into this? Question mark, maybe. Oh, Nazi eating stars. Well, most recent chapter, Nazi casually placed Ignil's the one who wiped out the dinosaurs. I feel like though with things like that, like how much do you think Natsu actually would know anything about Igneel lore? Because I would assume anything that he knows about Igneel is probably the idea of Igneel talking to a kid and sharing stories with them. Because other than that, I just don't really see how he would be aware of any of Igneel's specific accomplishments. You know, I just don't really see like how he would be aware of anything in particular. Like if we got to a part where it's like, oh, he went back to the Sabretooth's library and found information, maybe read stories on Igneel, or literally any way that he could logically get information on Igneel that is like viable and credible information, I would say sure. But like outside of that, how would he be aware of anything that like happened in the past? Because like Natsu hasn't researched anything. Also, where are you getting the part about him wiping out the dinosaurs? I don't see that anywhere in the chapter. Unless I missed something. I don't remember Igneel being brought up at all. Unless, oh, you're talking about the fan fiction. I thought you were talking about in like this in the actual chapter. I was like, where was that in the chapter? Because like it wouldn't surprise me if some like random thing he says about Igneel, but I was just like thinking about it, I was like, did that ever happen? What's going on, Kimon? How's it going? Oh, I can post the Discord link. What are you guys up to today? Let me post it for anybody who wants to join. Anybody else who wants to show up and come chat, talk about whatever the fuck. Light rules. There are some rules, but light rules. The whole bit about Jalal and Urza in the picture, it's, to me, it has a very interesting set of potential for a subplot, just because like if it's not magic based, so Urza can't like Nakagami cut her way out. How are they gonna get out? Though is the question, because if it's not magic based, then like can't they still put enough power and overload like the limitations of what this little pocket picture of space is capable of? Or is Jalal going to figure out a way to counter it? Like, oh, because of the way that I think this works, I can use these certain things to counteract it. Or like, imagine Urza, because Urza can use her magic. She sends Jalal into her dimension and then re-equips Jalal like essentially again out, but tries to do it in a space where it's like near that dude. And then, bam, Jalal's out, beats up this fodder dude, gets the picture fixed, Urza gets out, bam. I think that'd be cool. Maybe you set it up that's like Urza's figuring out how to use her her armors in more remote kind of settings. Like, what if she could do anywhere she wants from, she could use her armor depending on what one, but like, let's just say Heaven's Wheel because of all the swords. Something happens in Magnolia, none of the main cast or people are there, but they call up Urza. Urza does like some moves, and it just, she summons swords from whatever whatever distance away into Magnolia and fights like from afar and just wipes somebody out. Where it's like, oh, she can now do this if she can either see the location or she's like familiar enough with it, kind of thing. I think that'd be pretty cool. Job stuff going. I'm supposed to be starting something tomorrow. I'm gonna start trying to work at. My other stuff has just been kind of going casually and fine, but it's been all right. How's your stuff been going? How you been, Kinmano? Think Igni has the power
potential to surpass Acnologia in terms of power and character?
Yes, I do. I feel like there's always that potential as long as it's logical. I think Ignia has I don't count Space Between Time Acnologia unless you count the idea that Ignia is going to get something additional to power up from. But I assume that he has a good, out of all of the Dragon Gods, he's the one that most likely has the potential to overcome where Acnologia was. Not just in height, but officially, and with with some way to confirm it. But in the next chapter, it's kind of hard to say again, because the chapter, it left off in a way just because, again, these early into arc bits where none of the characters are really doing something active except for people that are stuck. Lucy's stuck right now. Gray, Wendy, and Carla. I want to say they're stuck, but unless we know that they're constrained with the things that constrict their magic, they should be able just to get out. I don't imagine that any reason why they wouldn't be able just to, Gray wouldn't be able just to bust out and trash these guys, unless he's trying to figure out information. He's being more tactical about it, which I think could work. Gray's a pretty smart guy. And then Jalal and Urza's in a weird spot because there's the other two are in ways that okay, well, what if they're waiting for something, then they're going to use their magic and then they're going to bust out. They're not really in distress. They're trying to get information from their enemies. Whereas Jalal and Urza, I feel are actually, at least until we get a way for them to get out of that picture, are stuck and are going to need help. Whereas I don't know what Gray, I don't know. I think they're fine, but everybody else, we don't have anything to go off of. I figured that this chapter would set up maybe one at least member of Sabretooth to be in a battle. I have absolutely zero confidence in Rogue fighting any of these guys right now of it being a fight, because the only named character in that area is Sai, and Sai, what is he gonna do? He's got weakness bond. Who's Rogue good at? Rogue will probably honestly turn into himself like Gray because of the stuff with his shadow and whatnot. His rival Sting, who he loves. If you want to go up, the potential ship turns into Minerva. He gets screwed in any direction he goes. The material bond, again, I don't really know how he uses that in a normal sense. I'd be willing to guess you can't just use that in a normal battle because that seems too good. To just turn somebody and switch their body with gems. Maybe it's only if it's a surprise attack, but... Remember playing Pokemon Soul Silver? That's not the best Pokemon game. Remember how hard Red is final boss? Now they meet Cynthia's Platinum Cynthia. I always thought Red was harder. I don't know. I struggled with Red more than Cynthia. Cynthia is probably one of those people, though, I never got the hype on her because I never had problems with Cynthia ever. I always just was able to bop her teams pretty quick. Lance was harder to me, but at the time of that's because I was a kid and I didn't really know about typing as much, and then on top of that, there weren't as many options. Thinking freaking old Pokemon, freaking Lance. I was wondering why you were being so myopic and really thought you were talking about canon. Oh yeah, because I was confused for a second. I was thinking about it, it's oh, this might be some one-off thing he said, because I Natsu just saying that wouldn't surprise me. If Natsu and Gajil were randomly in an argument, here's the thing, if Gajil gave some random fact about Metallicana where it's oh, Metallicana, I'm trying to think of something, he once gave one of his scales to a kingdom, and that scale turned into they forged it into a legendary sword, and that sword was passed down. He essentially told this fantasy that related to Metallicana that I would believe is real, because it's oh, if Metallicana told Gajil this and Gajil remembered it, because Gajil is a person that would remember it out of respect, Whereas, like, Natsu would probably think of something on the fly just to overtake whatever story Gajil would have told. Like, I think that's 100% believable of just based off of their characters and what we know about them. So I was, like, so confused for a second, because it's like, it sounds believable, but he also said recent chapter, and I was looking through recent chapter, I'm like, when did he say that? I was so confused. See, I always thought that dinosaurs would be like... Dinosaurs are to dragons what, like, monkeys are to humans. That's at least how I've always really thought about it, because it's like, they're close, but they're just kind of really brute force dumb cousins. Let's think about it. There's tons of different types of dinosaurs. There's tons of different types of chimps and monkeys. There's tons of types of dragons. There's tons of different types of humans. It makes sense to me. That's just what, to me, has always made sense. We're the species, we're dragons, and monkeys are, they're like the dinosaurs. They're the lessers. We're cooler. We're smart. We have inventions like Gogurt. I just wanted to think, what off the top of my head would be a great invention to think about. But you know what? No monkey's thinking about Gogurt. They're not thinking of yogurt on the go. I have a theory about Igneous surpassing Acnologia. I think if Igneous surpasses Acnologia, though, he'll do it through, like, pure strength and brute force. But the question is around Ignea is how Mishima is going to take his character. And I'll do a video around it. Because Ignea could be a character, like, in how Ignea could surpass Acnologia is if he is more human-like into his emotions. Because then his magic will flourish and be stronger, because going into your natural set of emotions and what you actually believe in, your passions and whatnot, has a higher outcome of magic. And it's like, Ignea seems to be like a very strange... Like, the way that Acnologia is a human that seemed to lose his way as a human, there's a degree of Ignea that could lose his way as a dragon by how he acts, and acts more human-like. And he just maybe, as a dragon, just is kind of like living between the two worlds, kind of like how Acnologia was. Just bring Lapras and Alliance's history. Here's the thing. I almost never use Pokemon that don't evolve. I've always loved Lapras, but I've always been mad that Lapras does not have an evolution or a pre-evolution. So I've almost never used Lapras. The only time I've ever even really had a Lapras in my party is in the original, not the originals, in Silver, because there was that way to catch the Lapras in the cave. I think it was like, Wednesdays or Thursdays? If you went during certain hours, you could capture Lapras, I think. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. Watching Kami got killed for Estes. That's cool. I should have got water before I started this. I think we're going to see Celine's other sons. I hope so. I really want to see Celine's children. Because, like, the thing about the Dragon Gods I've liked that we've been given through them is seeing different dragon perspectives. Celine being a dragon parent we're seeing. Alderaan being a very anti-human dragon. Mersephobia being an anti-human dragon that became reformed, that wanted to be good and help people. Ignea being a dragon that pretty much grew up in this current, like, he grew up in an already Acnologia, pretty much an issue world where dragons were on the run trying to hide and not get murdered by this guy. They've all got their different sorts. Dogromag just seems to be like Dragon the dude. He just seemed to be like he wanted to eat humans, but he wasn't like aggressive about it. He just seemed pretty chill as long as you were like fun to talk to or entertaining. I do wish so bad we got more with Dogromag. I hope so bad that we see Dogromag and Ignea flashbacks, or whatever Ignea's plan is. Maybe it somehow revives Dogromag. It was like with Alderaan, I was hoping like there's the idea that Alderaan being alive. I know a lot of people have that theory exists. I'm fine either or. I would have preferred if Dogromag lived. He's like Georg. Georg is more like Alderaan to me, whereas Dogromag I did want to live because we didn't get to really see much about him in depth. I think there's a way for shift her strong versus weak mentality into something healthy if given time. No, I mean, his death was like super too crazy. The thing is, like, most of the characters, like 90-something% of the Akame ga Kill characters, and any of the villains that dude really writes are like pretty much too far gone. You only really see him when they're too far gone. Most of the time, there's some that are still redeemable or salvageable. And that's what they're finding, kind of like how Dragon Ball characters will get their new form or figure something out to fight over power opponent. I can see Ignia figuring something out. The thing is, like, with Ignia, I can see Ignia learning some type of magic that advances him in form and body. Like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Because it's not like being human, but like, what if he looked at the fact that the human forms that they choose to be in is weaker than their dragon forms, but he figures out how to properly, fully make it so he can be in his human form and have full strength. But then it's easier for him, I would imagine, to train, grow in magic and strength and just do things in the humanoid form. And so he would be able to strengthen himself potentially at a faster rate, or maybe advance as is. Because here's the thing about the dragons that you also have to keep in mind: the dragons in their own body, none of them of what we've seen have really a martial arts style. We know, at least from what we've seen, Ignial, that like there's a degree of dragon melee combat that they definitely have. Like, that they have degree, like, they aren't just, like, dumb throwing their hands around. Like, there's clear ideas of, like, you know, them knowing, like, okay, I'm going to throw these attacks, I'm going to do this kind of, like, general approach. As well as, like, the dragons being able to defend themselves, they have to have a level of, obviously, intelligence in order to defend themselves properly. But, as it were, okay, where was my train of thought with this? Okay, now I remember this. You give Ignia a human body with, like, the actual respective capabilities that he would want, not a nerfed version. And then he's able to put it as a style where he's able to get better through technique and understanding his opponents more. Think of it kind of like Frieza, like, before training. Like, you have a dragon, but then they're putting a human's body in perspective, and they have to gain, like, the level of skill and requirement for human hand-to-hand combat. Like, actually assessing your opponents, figuring out how to work around them. Like, Ignia, like, if Ignia was able to also, like, advance himself through that. Like, imagine he stays in his human form to train and get stronger, but by doing that, his dragon form gets stronger by default. So as long as his weaker human form is pushed, that automatically raises the ceiling of his dragon capabilities. Like, there's a lot of stuff that Ignia can have, I think, has just so much potential as a character and in strength that I'm really hoping Mishima goes really hard into hammering in Ignia and his presence in the verse once we actually get to him and him just, you know, being active. And also, really quick, just because it's been a minute, I'd really appreciate anybody who hasn't yet thumbs up the stream, friend the like button, the subscribe button. You know, if you feel like I've entertained you enough, throw $1 or $2 my way, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, the membership's there. Like I said, $1 membership, there's $2 membership. Just that a month really helps. So even if you think, I don't know if I want to give him a super chat, maybe I'll give it to him next week. Just do the $1 a month instead. Huge benefit to my channel, and I've been really wanting to get back to stuff. It's just my other alternatives. If I'm like, oh man, you know, do my channel, or, you know, go out and do this, or, you know, try and get certain things done. It, unfortunately, just lately, because of how much YouTube has been getting throttled for ads, there just hasn't been as much. There hasn't been as much drive for both. Like, I've been busy, but also, like, there hasn't been any money in YouTube, unfortunately. So like I said, any amounts of just the cumulative bits helps. I appreciate it. But other than that, it's all donation. Other people don't have to do it. I'm going to do stuff on the channel regardless. It's just I've been busy, and I want to be more motivated to get stuff done and to really kind of get the channel back on track. And there's some video ideas I've had over the course of this last week, and I've been getting laid out. But I just need to get to them, get to the chapters. One thing I think I really need is I think we as the whole community, we really need just like one really hype chapter. We need something really crazy to happen in the next like chapter. So I'm trying to think of what would be insane just to suddenly happen. Like the picture guy, bam, he takes off his turban, it's some like disguise, it's some really powerful member, like, oh, I'm number 4 or 5 in Gold Owl, so it's like, okay, you have a respectable idea of how strong these guys are, you put him there, bam, he's gonna fight Jalal, sweet, that'd be super hype, cool, we're gonna have a really cool Jalal fight, something that just we weren't expecting just to pop up, or like Sting and Rogue. And I'm trying to think of any, like, returning characters. I can't think of any other returning people that would really work and make sense since we already got God Serena. I think Ignia's too far gone. I think Ignia is near that edge, but not there yet. Because you also, like, you have to keep in mind he's a dragon and not a human. So you can't look at, like, the atrocities he's done as the exact same as, like, say, you know, somebody who's a person that done that going against their own kind. Top 500 Years Quest fights. That's like a whole video topic. You get a new form or find a new can unlock in a new form for Natsu. I think Natsu will get his full like END dragon form. Well, Tatsumi didn't die. Are you talking about just as a part where she thought he died? Because that was just in the anime. Phoenix Tegu to exist? I mean, probably. You can just make up Tegu, right? Because they're just made out. They're just mythological creatures. What's up, Crystal Sanders? How you going? Or how are you doing, rather? With Ignia, like, I'm really hoping we get some good flashbacks from Ignia and we get, like, some in-depth on how he, like, just remembers Ignia's, Acnologia's approach, his sudden just influence within the dragon world, and how dragons had to just kind of figure out how to pretty much survive around him. Like, this dude was just a calamity that just brought ruin to their entire species. What do you think of Laxus and Kieran team up in the final arc? I don't think that have to be the final arc. I think that could be maybe closer to the end, but I don't think that would have to be like some big end thing. Unless we get something like another bit or two in between now and then to build up the rivalry to where they have like a cool coming together moment near the end. But maybe we'll get something like that. What I'd like to see, actually, I think would be really interesting is like, what is Kyria's interaction? Like, what is her reaction to Kieran having this beef with Laxus? Because we didn't get really a follow-up to Laxus and Kyria before Kieran happened, or sorry, about Kieran before we left. No, I don't think it can be, because like the manga is completely different than like Tatsumi lived in the manga. Like it's not even like it's not like a series that isn't finished and that's just like some idea of how the author might end it. Like, he lived. It's completely different in the manga. What series am I up to date with? I'm only up to date with like random series. Like, what is that one series? Chain Slate Soldier or whatever. I'm caught up on that. Gachi Ikuda, I'm caught up on that. Four Nights. Eden Zero, Fairy Tail, obviously. But I mean, I don't feel like just mentioning that. What else have I read? Record of Ragnarok. There's like one or two other series that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I read them whenever the chapters come out. I can't remember. Shonen Jump has been really lacking for me, and then I'm worried about Ginka and Luna. I'm guessing it's gonna get axed. The weirdness right now of these current chapters is just because of the way that the series has been set up. That like these like sudden like boss character fights of like, oh, some important boss character fight makes sense because it could be lore inducing of stuff that's already been laid out, but I feel like it's just getting rushed and it's gonna get ended. That's my guess, which is that's gonna bum me out because I liked the series. I liked the art. I thought the characters were cool. The world building was really interesting, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Japan reacted to it very well. It sucks. Like Japan is like they're more into like these fucking slice of lives right now than battle series. And the reason I like battle series so much is I like when these guys create their own worlds, and it's like, you know, over years you see the, you know, these worlds develop and like these different stories and tales, you know, unfold in them. And it's like these slice of life. It's like, oh, what's going on with this guy? Oh, his love triangle with like the freaking clarinet girl down the classroom hallway. Oh, she's decided this week she's not going to be a shy girl. She's going to be brave, and she's going to go surprise everybody and flirt with them. And it's like people just want to read shit like that right now. And it's like, if you want to read that, cool. But it's taking over Shonen Jump right now with that and gag series, and it just makes me sad. Because like I like the battle action series for like what that's like looking at the predecessors of it, and you look at these just like different series that have come before, and you look like where the groundworks are, and like nobody's really remembering some of these like freaking slice of life and freaking sports series after the fact. They're fun for like niche audiences, and it's like, I don't know. Like I don't care what people are doing with Blue Lock. It's soccer. What happened? Like, think about this is one thing again that's it's a fantasy thing, but it's a reason to care about the story. It's like, oh, there's some big calamity, right? Regardless if it's end of a town or end of, you know, 10 lives or end of the world, there's something that needs to be stopped. And it's like, you know, that even if you assume, like, sometimes characters end up dying in the process, but like you assume that like the big horrible calamity isn't going to happen. What kind of thing is there in soccer? Like it's like I just don't get what like the episode to episode is, and like what you do in the show is. Like, it just seems like these characters, sometimes they'll have like, you know, they'll have bro moments and they'll talk to each other, and then they'll talk shit while playing soccer. That just seems like so uninteresting to me. Like, what is that basketball series that adds powers to it? Like, stuff like that makes sense because you're taking something that is ground, like, that people already have an affection to, and it's like in reality, but then you are adding fantasy to it, and then it kind of just makes it so that's why it's, you know, a manga. It exists in this like extra world that, you know, is additional to our own. And, you know, apparently you got superpowers playing basketball or whatever. It just seems boring for like normal ones. I just don't get it. Should make a video on how Natsu finally surpassed S rank Guild Arts. I mean, anybody who thinks that Guild Arts can beat Dragon Force Natsu doesn't pay attention to the series. Mach Key. I like Mach Key, but the anime like just went and said, yeah, we're only gonna do the fan service stuff, and whereas like the manga is actually a good battle series and has good art too. That's the thing I liked about Chain Soldier or whatever it's called. I remember they changed the name because people didn't like it had slave in it. And it's just like stupid. You guys complain about nothing. Series about titties and fights. I do like it when they have solid art and they have cool battles, because both of those have pretty nice I was gonna say assets, but pretty nice enemies, like villains too. Like there's actually like a plot. It doesn't have to be some crazy plot. It's just they give, you know, stuff to look out for, stuff in the story, and then, you know, looming enemies. The designs are good too. Block soccer based on the new... Man, I just don't care about any of the sports ones. The sports series just don't seem interesting to me at all. I don't get how people watch them. It just doesn't seem entertaining to me. I don't know if that's just me, but it just seems so boring. Like, I just don't... Like, what is the hype in a sports series? At the end of the day, they're playing a game... It's not... So here's the thing. Yu-Gi-Oh! If Yu-Gi-Oh! Was just the regular card game, it wouldn't be as interesting, but it would still be a little bit more, because it's a story about a card game, and it's just like, okay, what are you gonna do with that? But I mean, like, from the aspect of the games, it wouldn't be as
interesting without like the crazy excessive shit that goes in there, where it's just like, what are these other series doing to make it not just like you're just watching a drama that's around a sports series? It's boring to me. I just don't get it. I do not get it, and I don't know if I ever will. I can't remember what it's called. I tried that one series about bicycling because there was somebody I knew that was really into it, and I didn't get it. It's the same thing. I just did not understand. I don't get series like that. I don't get what the appeal is. It does not make sense to me. If it was NASCAR, also was Quan. I don't think Quan quit YouTube. I think he's just been busy. There's been a wave of busyness that's like unfortunately come over like everybody that's been within that kind of, you know, that web of what I would. You go back to the Magic Parliament. It's like all those people. We've all just been really busy the last couple months. It sucked. I've been more trying to fit my free time more. YouTube points for my free time when I can. I mean, like NASCAR usually, like, for instance, the only movie I can think of off the top of my head, no, two movies based off NASCAR, right? You've got, Cars is a franchise, but Cars and Talladega Nights, and obviously, like, one's a Disney movie, one's a comedy movie, but they're more like that. Well, one is a comedy, so I can't really say it. Unless Blue Lock is more of just a story with soccer in it, but it seems like soccer is the primary thing. And plus, those are one sit goes, or one is like you're reading on a regular basis. And like I don't know what like where the tension is. People are just playing soccer. Like what is like a dangerous like plot twist in a chapter? Like a bumblebee stings this guy. He's allergic and it's in the I don't know, in the Socrates quarters? I don't know what they use. There's only 3 minutes left in the game. Their ace player is down. He has to call his mom for his EpiPen or something. It's just like, it just doesn't. What does that do? Personally, again, some people like that makes no sense to me. I haven't heard much from Quan lately. He might just be busy in the large Quan scope with his professional businesses and whatnot. They bring Pioneer Quest less arc pissed me off so bad. Why'd it piss you off? I would have liked it to be longer. Just because I was hoping for a couple more fights. And obviously I'm a Scullion fan, so I'm still waiting for Scullion to do something. Because it was solid arc. The Lucy fight is definitely one of the best fights we've had in 100 Years Quest, or fight with Kyria. I think it should have been longer and for sure given me more Dogra Mag. You know what got Crush? I haven't finished it yet, but I mean, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was as interesting as a Kame ga Kill. The thing about it that kind of made me a little bit less interested is it was lower scale, which it just seemed like, again, like these guys weren't as much threats because of that. And it's like all it took was a Kame that, she takes one of the things that reduces the cursor, and then she just blitzes all these dudes and murders all of them. I don't know why that, like, some of the characters weren't like really powerful. Like all of them were so much lower level. It feels weird when series backtrack to like large scopes. And not like in a way that like it's different for something like, say, like Boruto, because it's with kids. It's not like Naruto's just suddenly like, you know, hanging out with these guys and everybody's he's hanging out with now is suddenly at Boruto kid levels. I don't know. I lit this incense, so I can't tell if it's still going. Yeah, it is. Never mind. I can understand if some people didn't like the last like 2 chapters. The last 2 chapters have been setups, but based off of the ending of the last chapter, Mishima is skipping over a good chunk of just kind of like laid out expositions. I think that you should be fine. I would assume in this next chapter we'll probably get some fights set up. Because I think right now we're in like the middle of the volume setup. Like these last 2 chapters were in the middle of the volume, which usually are things like kind of just the setup of a volume, kind of just getting you chilled out, and then the next probably like couple chapters are gonna be crazier. Because usually too, Mishima almost always tries to end a volume on like some high end note or like crazy plot twist. Unless it's at the very end of an arc, then he might put something like a, you know, like a funny chapter in there, if it lines up. Chapter this week same as last week. That's not true. This chapter showed everybody's status. It showed now that we have direct line of they know where to go to figure out where everybody is. They know where Gold Owl's base is, and what is this? Ray's now in the base. Like we know him and Rogue are, well, they are in there. He doesn't know Rogue's there, but they now are actively infiltrated inside of the Gold Owl base. So now we just need to see what the plan is from there. Denny's Baron arc is going to be separate from the Gold Owl arc, emerged right now, unknown. Like that's the thing right now with this arc and Viernes that I do think is very interesting. Is we went into this arc with knowledge on Viernes, of like belief of Viernes, and then we switched to Gold Owl. So is Viernes actually going to participate in this one? I've been unsure about it. Like obviously the Gold and Gold Owl, you know, Viernes, Gold Owl, Gold Dragon God. There's the signs there, but nothing for us to really kind of like connect the points other than just more broad terms, I would say. The Urza thing is boring. I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think it's entertaining. I really like Urza and Joel interactions, but I think that it's going to lead to something more interesting. Like I'd like to believe that this is going to not just be like, okay, bam, this is done. Joel and Urza, like this just kind of inconvenience them for a short period of time. We know Lucy's with somebody that does have information, so we got to wait and figure out what's going to happen with that. I feel like if she should be able just to use Gemini, have Gemini turn into the old lady, and then Gemini could just get the information they need. I think that would be really cool if Lucy does that, just to kind of like, you know, nope over this bitch trying to trade her for money. The Jalal and Urza stuff right now, I feel like this turban guy I feel like he is somebody in disguise, and I don't mean that it's just like, you know, he's wearing a turban and sunglasses. I feel like he's gonna be one of those characters. He takes the turban off and he looks completely different, because out of the people, you have one is an old lady that was with Lucy. We know does seem to have some important information and knowledge. The other person is what Sai. We know Sai's a member of Gold Owl. He was already a named character. Iwashita got destroyed by Natsu, and the only other person is this camera guy. And the camera guy got stuck with like the most capable and not the overall strongest duo, but probably the best working strength duo you can have. At least from what I can tell, I feel like there's something more to that guy, and there's gonna be some form of reveal around him. Like it's gonna be like, oh, this character is actually some important member in Gold Owl, and he's going to be like some fight for Jalal or something. That just makes sense to me, at least. Rogue swinging his sheath sword, though, is one of the biggest surprises of the chapter for sure. Like, that to me was just in shock. Because it's like Mishima actually has acknowledged that the fucking sword on his belt is a weapon and not just an accessory. So maybe we will get him actually using the blade. What would be really funny is if it's like there's a story behind it. It's like, oh, right before the Grand Magic Games, I bought this because it looked really cool, but I hadn't figured out how to, train in being a swordsman. And it's like he's just been doing this on the side, and the main thing he's been doing around the last year is just training on like to be a swordsman. I think that actually would be really cool. Now that I think about it, I think it'd be neat to see a character become a swordsman after not being one at the start, just because I can't think of anybody else that in the series that fits something like that. Because Gray's a weapon specialist. Natsu had a sword for all of 5 seconds. Lucy can use a sword under certain circumstances. So it's like anybody who just doesn't have a sword that could use a sword, that like logically would get in a spot to use one. I don't know. Jalal will do fine when he gets his fight. Mishima loves Jalal and loves doing stuff with Jalal. So we'll get whatever Jalal's crazy thing is going to be soon enough. I think you would have been an interesting point. What do you think would have been an interesting point of divergence for a Kamiga kill? I would have liked... Well, for one, I would have liked more of these nations. Like, I would have liked one of these other nations show up as a surprise enemy to be an enemy for, like, the Empire. One thing I really like when series has it is when villains fight each other. It's not just like, oh yeah, skirmish. It's like it's a villain that never has an interaction with the main cast. It's like a personal enemy of like another bad guy. And so it's like if you have like, this evil empire and dude ruling it, oh, another dangerous empire gets involved. Maybe they get coaxed by some of the good guys to win to strike or something, and it's in a point that is layered on top of it. And it's like they're not an ally of like the good guys, they're a completely separate enemy that just got stirred up. If Rogue used a sword like Yami, I would like to see what Rogue as a swordsman would do. I would like to believe that Rogue would do something cool. Like, imagine he goes to swing and he just kind of appears in your shadow, and then like he, is able to do a slash like that. I think that'd be pretty sick. But if he's gonna get a sword upgrade, what is Sting gonna get? Just wonder if Sting would have as an alternative upgrade. Gray or not Gray, Godjill and Rogue was never like... It's weird because it's like Godjill never really had any connection for him, and Godjill's not the type of guy to just be like suddenly be all for him. He seems cool with him, but Rogue's like a kind of like old idolization towards Godjill is way more kind of calm and respected, more so than what like Natsu and Sting have. There hasn't really been anything for like the Gray and Godjill stuff. I don't really know if I agree with you for that. Or Gray and Rogue, rather. I'm saying it's not focused on the fights as much because it's doing relationships. I mean, these relationships are important, though. And it's kind of like one of the things as well is because we don't have... We're in a spot where any relevant fight can't just be with a random person. There has to be reasoning why a character is powerful to fight any of the main cast. You can't just have random Joe show up and like have a cool fight. And because of that, there needs to be more reason going into the fights. And we have to have things in place like this to where, oh, well, something happens to, X or Y character, why there's going to be as much of a response. Why Godjill was so furious about, like, the idea of Sai turning... Like, Godjill had no idea, would have no idea if, when he got turned into Levi, if any damage that happened to him would have happened to Levi's body or what. just the general idea of harm to Levy, his pregnant lover, just immediately made him mad. So there's a degree in there that still applies. Like, he's still, I don't know. Let me see. So, Officer General, do you think that's what he would do if he joined earlier? I don't know. I feel like he would have to leave because after seeing how corrupt they are. Oh, I was talking about the fights. There needs to be more reason. There has to be reason. I lost my train of thought. And I just remember what it was. It's because of there has to be more reason of why the fights matter and what gives them more weight. Because the fights, any relevant fight now should have a level of importance to it, not just in a combat sense. Unless it's literally a powerful character has shown up and somebody has to step up and fight him. And it's just literally that. It's nothing kind of outside of it. The new Budokai Tenkaichi game, the only thing I have to say 100% they have to do is they have to have I want 50 to 75% more characters in this one than were in the last one. And that one is a fact. If there's not 200 or so characters, I'm not buying the game. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not gonna. Natsu versus younger Toguro. Natsu one-shots him. Master Plan's always just hating. I don't know why you hating, fella, but I can't stop you. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But anyway, I'm going to call it good. I just wanted to do a quick stream, come chat with you guys for a little bit. I'll probably plan another one soon. I'm hoping the next chapter isn't going to be as slow, because I really want to have like a fun chapter to talk about a lot of things and really kind of get up a lot of different conversations around current events. Because like this arc has a lot of potential. It's really interesting, but it's going really slow into it. It runs like, it's funny, like, at least as of right now, that and Black Clover. But Black Clover is about to shift. I'm hoping into a really solid spot, and I'm hoping soon we get that with this arc too. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.